Tyler Thompson loosened his tie as he gazed out the airplane window, watching the clouds part to reveal the turquoise waters of the Caribbean below. He'd built an empire from nothing, yet the wedding invitation sitting in his carry-on felt heavier than any business contract he'd ever signed. His oldest friend was getting married on a picturesque island, and despite the mountain of work awaiting him back in New York, he couldn't bring himself to decline. What he didn't know was that fate had orchestrated this trip with an agenda all its own. The plane touched down on the small island of St. Lucia with a gentle bump. Tyler collected his luggage and stepped into the humid air, immediately feeling the weight of Manhattan slip from his shoulders. The driver holding a sign with his name directed him to a sleek black car. "Beautiful day for a wedding, sir," the driver remarked, sliding Tyler's expensive luggage into the trunk. "Is it?" Tyler replied absently, his mind still half occupied with the quarterly report he'd been reviewing on the flight. "I suppose it is." The resort came into view, a sprawling property nestled between lush mountains and pristine beaches. Palm trees swayed in the gentle breeze, and the sound of steel drums floated through the air. For the first time in months, Tyler felt something loosen in his chest. He checked his watch, still 3 hours before the welcome dinner. Enough time to settle in and maybe even enjoy a quick swim. The resort staff efficiently whisked away his luggage while he completed check-in. "Mr. Thompson, we've upgraded you to one of our beachfront villas," the concierge informed him with a warm smile. Mr. and Mrs. Davidson insisted that all members of the wedding party receive special accommodations. "That's very generous of them," Tyler replied, thinking of his friend Mark Davidson and his soon-to-be wife Jessica. It was typical of Mark to go all out. His villa was spectacular, airy, and elegant, with floor-to-ceiling windows revealing a perfect view of the ocean. Tyler changed into swimming trunks and a t-shirt, deciding that a walk on the beach might help clear his mind before diving back into work emails. The sand was warm beneath his feet as he strolled along the shoreline. The sun was beginning its descent, casting golden light across the water. Tyler felt his phone vibrating in his pocket, probably his assistant with another crisis, but for once he ignored it. That's when he saw her. A woman stood at the water's edge, her back to him as she gazed out at the horizon. Her dark hair danced in the breeze, and something about her posture, confident yet somehow wistful, made him slow his pace. She turned slightly, and Tyler felt the world stop spinning. Amber Valenti. The girl who had occupied his dreams for years after college, the one who had walked away. She hadn't noticed him yet, and for a moment, Tyler considered turning around. It had been 8 years since they'd seen each other, 8 years since that painful goodbye in their senior year when their paths had diverged so dramatically. He'd gone to New York for a prestigious finance position. She'd pursued her dream of working in marine conservation. They'd tried long distance for a few months, but the demands of his career had consumed him, and eventually they'd both agreed to end things. Or at least, that's what he told himself. In truth, she had ended it, telling him that his work had changed him, that the boy she'd fallen in love with had disappeared into endless meetings and midnight phone calls. Before he could retreat, she turned fully and their eyes met. Recognition bloomed on her face, followed by shock, then something undefinable. "Tyler," her voice carried on the breeze, still exactly as he remembered it. "Amber," he replied, forcing himself to close the distance between them. "I didn't expect to see you here." She smiled, and Tyler felt a familiar ache in his chest. "I'm one of Jessica's bridesmaids. We worked together in Belize for a conservation project a few years back." She looked him over. "And you're here for Mark, I assume?" He mentioned his big-shot CEO friend was coming. "Guilty as charged," Tyler said, trying to sound casual despite the thundering of his heart. "Though I hope he didn't actually introduce me that way." "Not to worry," Amber laughed. "He usually goes with Tyler Thompson, financial genius and workaholic extraordinaire." Tyler winced. "That sounds more accurate." An awkward silence fell between them, filled only by the sound of gentle waves. Tyler noticed subtle changes in her slight crinkles around her eyes when she smiled, a new confidence in her posture. But her eyes were the same deep brown that had once made him forget his own name. So, they both said simultaneously, then laughed. "You first," Amber offered. "I was just going to ask how you've been," Tyler said. "It's been a long time." 8 years, she confirmed, her eyes momentarily reflecting something that might have been regret. "I've been good. I run the Marine Conservation Center in Costa Rica now. We're doing important work." "That's amazing, Amber. You always said you would." She nodded, looking genuinely pleased by his acknowledgement. "And you? Though I don't really need to ask, Thompson Investments is practically a household name now." "It's been a wild ride," Tyler admitted, "but worth it, I think." "Is it?" The question wasn't accusatory, just curious. It still caught him off guard. Before he could answer, a voice called out from further up the beach. "Amber, there you are. Jessica's looking for you, something about emergency bridesmaid duties." Amber waved acknowledgement to the woman Tyler didn't recognize. "Duty calls," she said with an apologetic smile. "I suppose I'll see you at dinner." "I'll be there," Tyler promised, watching as she walked away, trying not to notice how gracefully she moved or how his heart seemed to follow her. The welcome dinner was held on a terrace overlooking the beach. Strings of lights hung overhead, casting a warm glow on the gathering of friends and family. Tyler spotted Mark immediately and made his way over. "The man himself," Mark exclaimed, pulling Tyler into a bear hug. "I wasn't sure you'd actually make it. Thought maybe you'd send a hologram instead." Tyler laughed, returning the embrace. "And miss seeing you finally settle down, not a chance." "It's good to see you, man, really good," Mark said, sincerity evident in his voice. "And hey, I saw you talking with Amber earlier. Small world, huh?" "The smallest," Tyler agreed, trying to sound nonchalant. "I had no idea she knew Jessica." "Yeah, they're pretty tight. She's actually been staying at our place in California whenever she's in the States." Mark gave Tyler a knowing look. "You know, she's never really had a serious relationship since." "Don't," Tyler cut him off gently. "That was a lifetime ago." Mark raised his hands in surrender, just saying, some flames never really die out. Before Tyler could respond, Jessica appeared at Mark's side, radiant in a flowing white dress. "Tyler, I'm so happy you could make it," she hugged him warmly. "Has Mark been behaving himself?" "So far," Tyler assured her with a smile. "Congratulations, Jessica, you look beautiful." "Thank you," she beamed. "Have you had a chance to catch up with Amber? She mentioned running into you earlier." "Briefly," Tyler replied, wondering why everyone seemed so interested in his interaction with Amber. "We didn't have much time to talk." "Well, I've seated you next to each other at dinner," Jessica said with a smile that was a little too innocent. "I thought it would be nice for you to reconnect." Tyler shot Mark a look, but his friend merely shrugged with feigned innocence. "Total coincidence, I'm sure," Mark said, not sounding convincing in the slightest. The dinner was elegant but relaxed, with delicious Caribbean-inspired dishes and flowing champagne. True to Jessica's word, Tyler found himself seated beside Amber, who looked stunning in a simple emerald dress that complemented her olive skin. "We meet again," she said as he took his seat. "I'm beginning to think this isn't entirely coincidental." Jessica admitted to the seating arrangement, Tyler confessed. "I suspect Mark might have had something to do with it as well," Amber laughed. "Those two are incorrigible matchmakers. They've been trying to set me up with someone at every opportunity." "And have they been successful?" Tyler found himself asking, immediately wishing he could take back the too personal question. Amber met his gaze steadily. "No," she said simply. "My work keeps me busy. What about you? I imagine the eligible bachelor CEO must have women lining up." Tyler shook his head. "Nothing serious," he admitted. "Same reason the company takes most of my time." "Some things never change," Amber remarked, a hint of the old hurt in her voice. Tyler felt a flash of defensiveness. "That's not entirely fair." "You're right," she conceded, surprising him. "I'm sorry." "That was uncalled for." Their conversation was interrupted as dinner was served, and for a while they focused on their meals and chatting with others at their table. The tension between them gradually eased as they reminisced about mutual friends and shared memories of college days. After dinner, as the party moved to a more casual setting with music and dancing, Tyler found himself by the bar, watching Amber laugh with some of the other bridesmaids. "You know," Mark said, appearing beside him, "when Jessica first mentioned Amber was a bridesmaid, I almost called to warn you." "Why didn't you?" Tyler asked, accepting the whiskey Mark handed him. "Because I thought maybe it was time you two finally dealt with whatever is still between you." Mark sipped his own drink. "You've never talked about what happened, not really, but I know it hit you hard." Tyler stared into his glass. "We wanted different things. It happens." "Is that what you told yourself? Because from where I stood, you both wanted the same thing each other. You just couldn't figure out how to make it work with your ambitions." Tyler had no response to that. He watched as Amber excused herself from her group and walked toward the beach. Without consciously deciding to, he found himself following her. She stood just beyond the terrace, gazing up at the star-filled sky. "I'd forgotten how many stars you can see away from the city," she said without turning, somehow knowing it was him. "It's beautiful," Tyler agreed, moving to stand beside her. "Amber, about what you said earlier." "I shouldn't have said that," she interrupted. "It wasn't fair to bring up old hurts." "No, you were right," Tyler said quietly. "Some things haven't changed. I still work too much. I still put the company first too often. And I'm still traveling constantly for my research," she added, "still refusing to compromise on my principles." They stood in silence for a moment, the sound of waves filling the space between them. "I saw your interview in National Geographic," Tyler said finally. "About the coral reef restoration project, you looked happy." Amber turned to him, surprise evident on her face. "You saw that?" "I've kept tabs on you," he admitted. "Not in a stalker way, just, I wanted to know you were doing well." "I did the same," she confessed. "I have Google alerts set for Thompson investments. That's how I knew about your clean energy initiative." Tyler couldn't help but smile. "You inspired that, you know. All those lectures about corporate responsibility finally sank in." "Better late than never," she teased, but there was warmth in her voice. As they stood there under the stars, Tyler felt something shift between them, the weight of their past lifting slightly, making room for possibility. "There's a boat trip tomorrow morning," Amber said suddenly, "before the rehearsal dinner. Jessica arranged it for anyone who wants to see the reefs." "You should come." "I have some calls scheduled," Tyler began automatically, then caught himself. "But I can reschedule them. I'd like to see these reefs you've dedicated your life to." Amber's smile was worth every call he'd have to move. "Good, meet at the dock at 9 a.m. and Tyler, don't wear a tie." The next morning dawned bright and clear. Tyler arrived at the dock at 8:45, dressed in shorts and a casual button-down shirt, no tie in sight. Amber was already there, looking effortlessly beautiful in a sundress over her swimsuit, her hair pulled back in a simple ponytail. "You came," she said, sounding pleasantly surprised. "I said I would," he replied. "I'm trying this new thing where I occasionally keep personal commitments." She laughed, and the sound was like coming home after a long journey. Revolutionary concept for a CEO, the boat trip was magical. Amber was in her element, explaining the marine ecosystem to the small group with infectious enthusiasm. When they stopped for snorkeling, she guided Tyler personally, pointing out colorful fish and the coral restoration projects her team had implemented. Underwater, with the sun filtering through the crystal-clear water and Amber's graceful form swimming ahead of him, Tyler felt a clarity he hadn't experienced in years. The quarterly reports and board meetings seemed a world away. Here, in this moment, he remembered who he used to be, who he still was, beneath the tailored suits and boardroom persona. Later, as they sat on the boat drying off, Amber handed him a bottle of water. "You're a natural in the water. I wouldn't have expected that from a Manhattan finance guy." "I grew up in California, remember? My dad taught me to swim before I could walk." "I remember," she said softly. "You used to talk about taking a year off to sail around the world." "That dream got lost somewhere along the way," Tyler admitted. "It doesn't have to stay lost," Amber said, meeting his eyes. "Dreams can be rediscovered." There was something in her gaze that made Tyler wonder if she was talking about more than just sailing. Before he could respond, Jessica called everyone's attention for a champagne toast, and the moment passed. That evening at the rehearsal dinner, Tyler found himself seated across from Amber rather than beside her. He caught her eye several times during the meal, each glance a silent acknowledgement of the connection that was rebuilding between them. After dinner, as music played and couples took to the dance floor, Tyler approached her. "Would you like to dance?" he asked, extending his hand. "I'm not sure that's a good idea," Amber replied, though he noticed she hadn't immediately refused. "It's just a dance, Amber," he said softly. "No pressure, no expectations." After a moment's hesitation, she placed her hand in his. Just one dance became two and then three. They moved together as if the years apart had never happened, her hand fitting perfectly in his, her body remembering the way they used to sway together to music in his college apartment. "This feels like déjà vu," Amber murmured as they moved slowly to a ballad. "Except now I step on your toes less," Tyler joked. "I don't know about that," she teased back, but she moved a fraction closer to him. As the evening wore on, they found themselves walking along the beach again, shoes in hand, the sounds of the party fading behind them. "Tell me about your life in New York," Amber said. "The real version, not the press release." Tyler considered the question. "It's intense, rewarding but demanding. I have an apartment with a view of Central Park that I rarely see in daylight. I have people who depend on me, employees, clients. The responsibility is enormous. And does it make you happy?" The same question she had asked the day before, but this time, Tyler took a moment to really consider his answer. "Parts of it do," he said honestly. "Solving complex problems, knowing my work makes a difference in the financial world. But there are trade-offs." He looked at her. "What about you? Does your work make you happy?" "Most days," Amber replied. "When I see coral growing where there was once only dead reef, or when I help rehabilitate an injured sea turtle, those moments are pure joy, but there's loneliness too. I live in remote locations, move constantly." They had stopped walking, facing each other now. "I used to blame you," Amber said suddenly, "for choosing your career over us. But over the years, I realized I did the same thing. I chose my path just as definitively." "We were young," Tyler said. "Maybe too young to figure out how to have both." "And now?" Amber asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Tyler reached out, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "Now I'm wondering if we missed something important, if there was a third option we never explored. Which is finding a way to have both, a career and—" He trailed off, not quite ready to name what was growing between them again. Amber stepped back slightly. "It's been 8 years, Tyler. We're different people now, are we? Or are we just more fully realized versions of who we always were?" She didn't have an answer for that. "It's getting late," she said finally. "Tomorrow's a big day." Tyler nodded, respecting her need for space. "I'll walk you back." They returned to the resort in comfortable silence, and when they reached her villa, Tyler resisted the urge to kiss her goodnight. Instead, he simply said, "Sweet dreams, Amber," before turning to leave. "Tyler," she called after him. When he turned back, she said, "I'm glad you came this weekend." "So am I," he replied, and meant it more than he'd expected to. The day of the wedding dawned perfect and clear. The ceremony was set to take place on the beach at sunset. And as the hours ticked by, Tyler found himself unusually nervous, not for Mark, who seemed perfectly calm, but for what the day might bring with Amber. "You look like you're the one getting married," Mark commented as they got dressed in their suits. "Just happy for you," Tyler deflected. Mark wasn't fooled. "Sure, that's why you've been checking your phone every 5 minutes and staring out the window toward the bridesmaid suite." Tyler sighed. "Is it that obvious?" "Only to someone who's known you for 20 years, Mark replied, adjusting his bow tie. Look, I don't know what's happening between you two, but I've never seen you look at anyone the way you look at her, not even back in college. Nothing's happening, Tyler said. We're just reconnecting. Well, whatever you call it, don't waste this chance, Mark advised. Some people go their whole lives without finding what you two had, and from what I can see, still have. The ceremony was beautiful. Jessica was radiant as she walked down the aisle on her father's arm, and Mark looked happier than Tyler had ever seen him. But despite his best efforts to focus on his friend's special moment, Tyler's eyes kept drifting to Amber, standing with the other bridesmaids in a flowing seafoam dress, looking so beautiful it almost hurt to look at her. During the reception, as the best man, Tyler had responsibilities that kept him busy delivering his speech, making sure Mark had everything he needed, dancing with the maid of honor as tradition dictated. It wasn't until the party was in full swing that he finally had a chance to approach Amber. "May I have this dance?" he asked, finding her at a table with some of the other guests. "Aren't you tired of dancing with bridesmaids?" she asked with a smile. "Only interested in one particular bridesmaid," he replied honestly. As they moved onto the dance floor, Tyler noticed something different in the way she looked at him, a softness that hadn't been there before, a warmth that gave him courage. "I've been thinking about what you said last night," Amber began, "about finding a third option. And..." Tyler prompted, his heart beating faster. "And I think maybe we were both too stubborn before, too unwilling to compromise." She looked up at him. "My work is important to me, Tyler. It always will be." "I would never ask you to give that up," he said immediately. "Your passion for conservation is one of the things I've always admired most about you. And your drive, your intelligence, those are things I've always admired in you," she admitted. "But maybe there's a way to balance it all better than we did before." The music changed to a slower song and Tyler pulled her closer. "What are you saying, Amber?" "I'm saying that my organization is opening an office in New York next year for fundraising and education. They've asked me to consider taking a leadership role there." Tyler tried not to let his hope show too plainly. "And would you consider it?" "I wasn't going to," she said honestly. "New York has too many memories, but seeing you again changes things," he suggested, hardly daring to believe what he was hearing. "Maybe," she admitted. "But Tyler, if we were to try again, it would have to be different. I can't be with someone who puts work above everything else, above us." "I've learned some things in 8 years," Tyler said seriously. "One of them is that success means nothing if you don't have someone to share it with. I built the company I always wanted, but my apartment is empty at the end of the day." Amber studied his face as if searching for any sign of insincerity. "We'd have to take it slow," she cautioned. "A lot has changed." "And a lot hasn't," Tyler countered, reaching up to touch her cheek. "I still know that you hum when you're thinking hard. You still bite your lip when you're nervous like you're doing right now. And I'm pretty sure I still feel exactly the same way about you as I did 8 years ago." Amber's eyes widened. "And how is that?" "Like you're the most important thing in my world," Tyler said simply. "The one that got away, the one I've measured everyone else against and found them wanting." Amber's eyes glistened with unshed tears. "I tried to forget you," she whispered. "I really did." "I'm glad you failed," Tyler murmured, and finally, after 8 years of regret and wondering what might have been, he lowered his lips to hers. The kiss was gentle at first, tentative, but quickly deepened as years of longing poured into it. When they finally broke apart, they were both breathless, and Tyler noticed that several guests were watching them with knowing smiles, including the bride and groom. "I think we just became the unofficial entertainment," Amber said with a laugh, though she didn't move out of his arms. "Let them watch," Tyler replied, kissing her again briefly. "I'm done hiding how I feel about you." As the night wore on, they danced, they talked, they reconnected in ways that made 8 years feel like mere days. When the reception finally wound down, they walked hand in hand back to Amber's villa. "When do you leave?" she asked as they stood outside her door. "Tomorrow afternoon," Tyler replied. "You, the day after. I have a meeting in Miami before heading back to Costa Rica. Tyler nodded, calculating in his head. I could come to Miami, he offered, or to Costa Rica for that matter. My company jet makes travel considerably easier than it used to be. Amber smiled. Already making plans. I'm not letting you disappear from my life again, Tyler said firmly. Whatever it takes, whatever compromises we need to make, I want to try. Really try this time. Amber reached up, her fingers tracing the line of his jaw. I want that too, she admitted. But let's be smart about it. You have responsibilities in New York and I have mine in Costa Rica. For now, at least. For now, Tyler agreed. But I'm serious about making this work, Amber. I'll scale back my hours. I'll delegate more. I'll fly to wherever you are every weekend if that's what it takes. And I'll consider that New York position more seriously, she promised. It could be good for the organization, not just for us. They sealed this new commitment with another kiss, one full of promise and possibility. 6 months later, Tyler stood in JFK Airport, a bouquet of tropical flowers in his hand as he watched passengers stream through the arrival gate. The past months had been a whirlwind of long-distance dating weekend visits to Costa Rica, Amber's trips to New York, endless video calls that never seemed long enough. But today marked a new beginning. When Amber appeared, her face lit up at the sight of him. She rushed forward, dropping her carry-on to throw her arms around his neck. Welcome home, Tyler murmured against her hair. Home, Amber repeated, pulling back to look at him. I like the sound of that. Your apartment is all set up, Tyler told her as they collected her luggage. Though I hope you won't be spending too much time there, Amber raised an eyebrow. Presumptuous, Mr. Thompson. Hopeful, he corrected with a smile. The Thompson Marine Conservation Initiative is eager to meet its new director, by the way. I still can't believe you created an entire division of your company for ocean conservation, Amber said, shaking her head in wonder. It makes good business sense, Tyler insisted, though they both knew it was much more than that. And having the world's foremost expert on coral reef restoration leading it is a coup. Flattery will get you everywhere, Amber laughed, leaning into him as they walked toward the exit. As they drove into Manhattan, the skyline glittering in the evening light, Tyler reached across the console to take Amber's hand. Any regrets? He asked softly. She turned to him, her eyes reflecting all the love he felt in his own heart. Only that we wasted 8 years, she replied. But I plan to make up for lost time. We both do, Tyler promised. 1 year later, they stood on the deck of a sailboat anchored in the same Caribbean waters where they had rediscovered each other. The ring on Amber's finger caught the sunset light as Tyler wrapped his arms around her from behind. Mrs. Thompson, he murmured against her neck. I'm still getting used to that. I'm still getting used to the fact that you actually took 2 weeks off for our honeymoon, she teased, turning in his arms. The great workaholic CEO completely disconnected from his empire. I have excellent management in place, Tyler reminded her, including a brilliant marine conservation director who insists on proper work-life balance. Smart woman, Amber noted with a smile. The smartest, Tyler agreed, kissing her softly. Smart enough to give us both a second chance. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold, Tyler reflected on the journey that had brought them here. A destination wedding, a chance reunion, and the courage to rewrite their story. Sometimes, he mused, the most important business decision was knowing when to follow your heart instead of your head. And as Amber's lips met his in the fading light, Tyler knew with absolute certainty that she had always been his most important investment, his greatest success, and the love that defined his life's true purpose.